Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
I'm doing a line change. That's right, I'm doing a line change. Just a day ago, I tried to sell some optimism and positivity with this aggressive retool. And then I saw what Chuck Fletcher and the Flyers elected to do. And then I watched Chuck Fletcher in the press conference rubbing his eyes together as if he can't take it anymore and he just wants all the questions to be done and completed. And while I'm sure every coach and every single player, whoever sits in front of a microphone, doesn't truly want to be there, when you have to tell a franchise and tell the fans of that team and tell them your path, and that's what you look like from a body language perspective, that makes me sick. This is a disgrace. And trust me, I know where I was. I am pretty pissed off to see a 4-year contract for a goon? That's where we're going with Delorier? I mean, are we serious? That's a fireable offense. That's a contract that nobody gives out. And Chuck Fletcher had the audacity to look everybody in the eyes and say that, well, the market was competitive, so we needed to do something to make sure he was here. But let me get this straight. You didn't want Johnny Gaudreau? I want to know how bringing back Justin Braun, which he tried to say was adding to the blue line. It's not adding to the blue line. That's what you had last season. So when you tell us that there are holes on the defensive side because you are uncertain with Ryan Ellis, how are we this uncertain still with Ellis? Oh, it's complicated to utilize the LTIR because we don't know exactly where he's at. How do you not know where he's at? Please tell me the information and provide the timeline on why you are still baffled and confused on the availability of Ryan Ellis and where his current status is. It's impossible to be that far behind on one person who dates back to playing the amount of games I could count on one hand last year. So you brought in Tony D because of the injured Ryan Ellis, but bringing back Justin Braun isn't really looking at it for me as an addition to the team, because that's the same exact player you had on your squad last season. And he's fine as a third defenseman on a third pairing with a player like Cam York or anything like that. But hearing Chuck Fletcher say, hey, we got Nick Seeler in the mix for that. Nick Seeler? Nick Seeler? You actually said Nick Seeler in a press conference, hoping that the fan base would be okay with your tone and they should be excited about that. You signed a goon who sucks to a 4-year deal. I can't believe it. They tried to say they weren't involved in a Johnny Gaudreau sweepstakes. Yes, you were. You're lying because you failed miserably. He desperately wanted to come here. He basically said, have me, sign me, do what it takes to get me. It doesn't add up, because when asked and pushed back about the Johnny Gaudreau sweepstakes, Chuck Fletcher was asked about the market to try and free up cap space. Well, I'm not going to point out any names or any players on this roster. Well, it's JVR, and we know that, Chuck, but okay, you try and slither through. How come it's tough because the asking point was high? So let me get this straight. You weren't in on Johnny Gaudreau, yet you're buying out Oscar Lindblom, and you're trying to see what the market is to free up cap space. A ding, 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 ding. You're trying to get Johnny Gaudreau. You just failed miserably, and it's unacceptable for him to land in Columbus after saying no to Calgary, taking less money. I'm sorry. It was there for the Flyers to land. They just failed as a front office to execute it. And you had a chance to bring in something that would be aggressively Retool. That's what it would be. Johnny Gaudreau coming here fits the mold of an aggressive Retool. When you said that last season, I understood it more than most. I had to wait and see the product, though. I had to wait and see the execution. This is it? Delorier? We're running it back with these clowns, too? Some of them Nick Sealers? Come on, with all due respect, the Zach McEwens, it's unacceptable. That's not an aggressive retool. That's not what this is. I don't think they know anymore. And that's a problem. And the fact that Chuck Fletcher, who won't be here much longer, is the one making these decisions and screwing everything up, it's problematic. It's either you're all in or you're all out. And right now, some people have 1 foot in, some people have 2 feet in, some people have no feet in. And I'm not talking just about the front office. I'm talking about a lot. And I've heard a lot of upsetting things about certain players. But I'll point out Ryan Ellis. You know why Ryan Ellis isn't going to play? He hates it here. Now, part of me goes, I get it. Look how dysfunctional it is. The other side is, yo, dude, be a professional, will ya? Figure it out, will ya? I mean, he's not showing up to games. He's not a part of the locker room. He's not a part of the squad. Last year, he wasn't there. He didn't give a damn. So I got to look at him and target more of just the approach from his side of things while acknowledging how funky it is. And clearly, nobody seems to have the proper communications to get everybody on the same page. But yo, dude, what are you waiting for? Do you want to play or do you not want to play? This is going to stink. Now I'm hearing that they're hiring a coach that ripped his shirt off to fight Evander Kane. Now, I saw a counter argument. So what? Evander Kane's a douche. So if you're fighting Evander Kane, good for you. I don't want my coaches to be ripping off their shirts to fight players. And also vaccination status stuff with this coach. It just keeps getting worse and worse and spiraling down a path that is so uncomfortable as a fan base. I'm now starting to be on the train with everybody else of, I can't handle it. I can't handle it. And I tried. And you know I tried. There was probably a point of not even committing to it because I wanted to convince myself that it's not going to be as pathetic and embarrassing. And there still are some points that I do believe is very valid within that. I believe in a healthy Kevin Hayes. I believe in certain aspects of this team that won't be as awful as last season. But the more and more we're getting this knowledge, it was all under the precedent that by the end of free agency, there would be enough for us to feel, okay, there were additions made to this team that is clearly not running it back with slop. They're running it back with worse slop. We want to be hard to play against. Hard to play against is signing a 30-year-old dude who stinks. Stop it. You know how you become harder to play against? Have a defenseman have to play against Johnny Gaudreau. Just spitballing. Just throwing out ideas. Forcing teams and number one D-men to play 25 minutes a night skating backwards when Johnny Gaudreau's coming down the left wing. When Johnny Gaudreau's going to get your jock strap up in the rafters because he's going to dance you. And then, by the way, finish twine and snipe cheese. Just throwing out simple concepts here that he could do. That's what makes you harder to play against. It's crazy. It's wild, and I know I've shifted big time, but that's why the episode of this show is line change. We're making a heavy line change right here. All right, 30 seconds, get pucks deep. Now we're getting our top line out. Here's our top line. Explain to me, what was the aggressive retool, Chuck? You did nothing. You did absolutely nothing. Your answer sucks because you don't know where you are. I think there's a lot happening up top, forcing that to be the case. But it doesn't matter because when you're this frustrated, unfortunately for him, it's going to be targeted towards the guy who's the face of it. And there's people hiding behind closed doors that are unwilling to show their hideous face. And when it gets this sour, of course, it will eventually snowball into that. No doubt about it. Nobody's getting off the hook when it's this level of just sad, 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 sad times. You had the paper bag Twitter picture trend that happened last year. Now at the Flyer skate zone in Voorhees, we're watching individuals come in with signs saying not only sell the team, which you see with all sorts of franchises, but you're saying get Chuck Fletcher out of town. I don't know what else you need to see out of Chuck Fletcher. What's he going to do to prove his worth? If anything, this was the year. Did this smell like a desperation offseason? Absolutely. I talk all the time about calculated risks. And I was speaking to someone very, 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 very close to the Flyers last night. And he's baffled by it all. Couldn't believe it. And it bleeds right into what I was going to say about a calculated risk. Let's say it does take a lot to get JVR off the books. A first rounder that you don't feel is worth getting rid of, but it brings in a Johnny Gaudreau. A fan base, and not that you're supposed to make a move because of a fan base. You're not. But hear me out. If you swing and miss on Gaudreau, which I don't think it would be a swing and a miss, it would be a swing and a good signing. But let's say, worst case scenario, you swing and miss. It's a big time difference between swinging and missing. And then this. This is the alternative. Give me a shot. That's all I'm asking for. You gotta give them a shot. When does it happen? When the biggest free agent on the entire market, who put up 99 points a few years ago and now had a breakout year with a 100-plus point season, and in a worst year, let's say, and I'm just spitting numbers here, in an 82-game season, let's say worst season, he gives you 72 points. Just saying, off the top of my head, let's say he has a bad year, air quotes, 72 points in 82 games. This guy is begging you, figure it out. Figure it the hell out. I want to be here. Oh, we can't. What? Right then and there, I'm kicking his ass to the curb, and I'm having Danny Briere get it done. That's what I'm doing if I'm above Chuck Fletcher at that point. It just can't happen. It's unacceptable for the path to happen that happened. So what are we waiting for with a new GM? Or, excuse me, what are we waiting for out of this GM to not get a new one in place? Desperation is the word that's being utilized for him. But if this is your last go at, think about this. Chuck is desperate, right? He is. He knows. He sees and feels that the seat is hot. His last go at it was signing Delorier to a 4-year deal. What? He sucks. This guy sucks, Delorier. What are we doing? What are we doing? If you're thinking, Broads, I told you this years ago. I told you this months ago. All right, you're right. You're right. Okay, I waited. I had more optimism. And once again, there's still things that I heavily believe in that I've stated in the past. But yesterday was a breaking point. And a little bit even today into, what they talk about adding to the coaching staff. But hearing Chuck and seeing the 4-year deal, it's a new low. It's lower than low. And now I'm on the side of everybody else who just is ready to say a lot of things that I wish I could say. And I probably can, but I'll hold off. Unreal. 856-442-9805. That's the phone number to climb in. I want to hear from you. Before we get to the phones and the chat, if you have any questions for me, utilize the chat in the live stream. I would love to get your thoughts on some things. But to my Broads Media listeners, I've got a guy for you that you may not need today, but you will need him one day. You guys know I'm a big hockey guy, and hockey connected me with Zach Green. We grew up playing in the same area. Here I am a few years later. Bang, I'm screaming in a microphone, and he's helping you get the justice you deserve and you are entitled to. I'm talking Zach Green of Javerbaum Law Firm. Zach is an experienced attorney who will personally handle your case if you or a loved one have been injured in a car accident, a slip and fall, or if you have been the victim of medical malpractice. Now, you may be saying, yeah, I was in a car accident, but I feel fine. Be careful. You'd be surprised to learn how many injuries start way after the accident. So if you were in an accident, make sure you reach out to Zach at 609-790-3895 or email him at zgreen@lawjw.com. His link is down below in the description. Let's go to Mike on the Anytime Hotline. Good afternoon, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, congrats for that Comcast thing I saw on TV yesterday.
Thank you very much. Yes, for everybody listening, starting August 1st, the best show ever. Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Bowe, Jen Scordo, and myself, weekdays 2 to 6, The Fanatic and NBC Sports Philadelphia. It's going to be a blast. I cannot wait. So thank you very much for those kind words.
Anyway, about the Flyers, man, I have 2 points to make.
Okay.
Just real quick.
Yes.
First point, if I was in charge of the Flyers, I would have sacked Fletcher like a couple seasons ago. I would have sacked them. I would have looked at how much
Mike, he came in a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's the thing. But if you look at the cap situation and you look at other teams, I'm just looking at other teams like Columbus, New Jersey, Carolina, Phoenix, Anaheim, you know what I mean? The Flyers really screwed up. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, Mike. They definitely did screw up. Oh, there's no doubt about it. And if you did look at the track record of Chuck Fletcher, what happened in Minnesota was a very similar circumstance. If I'm being honest, though, when you date back to the hire of Chuck Fletcher, I didn't despise it because I didn't believe that he was some genius or some magnificent piece, but I thought he was at least just a capable hockey mind who, maybe surrounded by the right pieces, could form a team that we could respect in the front office, if that makes sense. So not anything mind-blowing where I thought we had an elite general manager, but I thought it was at least a hockey guy. A hockey guy, a fresh new look, not a Philadelphia Flyer, right? Like you get rid of the old school look. You bring in Alain Vigneault. It was a fresh new, breath of fresh air. It's just new. It's outside looking in, and someone who could just be okay, but within a team, a group of a front office with a new coach could put this squad in the proper position. Well, fast forward a few years, and is it worse than Ron Hextall? It's probably in the same category. We can't forget the fact that Ron Hextall wouldn't allow players to eat certain food, and he was so micromanaging that players weren't even people anymore. So that's pretty hard to get on that tier, but maybe we are seeing it just in a different way, which is extremely sad. Speaking of, though, the Johnny Gaudreau thing, I am seeing a lot of hate in the Calgary world. Not that we care too much about Calgary sports fan reaction, but they are really upset because they could have lived with him going east, the Devils or the Washington Capitals or the Philadelphia Flyers. If he went home for his family, there was a level of respect, which, hey, we totally get it. We understand your wife is pregnant. You want to be close to your family, her family, and go about things. And then he goes to Columbus, which I think once he said no to Calgary, there were teams that started to check in, and then the doors somewhat open up to teams that you don't necessarily think about that snag him. With that premise, there's too much of that's not home. There's a big difference between being in Calgary, Alberta, and being in Columbus when thinking how that compares to traveling to New Jersey or getting your family to visit you in Columbus. So, I get it because they thought it was going to be Philly, New Jersey, and East Coast vibes. It's not necessarily. Got a nice ticket in Columbus. So it's a different spot. I mean, I didn't even see that coming. I spoke to him about some things and, just checking in on him throughout the process. Columbus was not something that the hockey world or a lot of us saw that was, but it ended up, and it's very unique. It's very interesting. It's very different. It's not what we all expected, and I think that adds a level of interest to it. Don't downplay, though, the difference in travel to go see people that you love and for them to come see you when speaking of New Jersey to Columbus and New Jersey to Calgary, Alberta. I've been out to Alberta. I visited him 2 Christmases ago. It ain't the easiest trip in the world. So let's calm down on that front. All right, back to the phones. Amadeo, I'm sure you are not a happy man. Actually, I know you're not a happy man. Spill the beans. What's going on in your feels?
For a general manager in Chuck Fletcher that went to Harvard University, he's pretty stupid. I'm not going to lie. He's pretty stupid.
It's worse than I ever thought it would be. It's worse than I thought. Man, he's checked out. You could tell that. We've seen the look. It's a look. It's a certain look that people have. We saw it with Doug Peterson by the end. We saw it with Brett Brown by the end. Doc Rivers is starting to teeter with it, but when you start hearing a specific way of speaking, and when you start seeing a certain body language and the way he's putting his hands in between his eyes as if he can't take this question anymore and all that, and he just wants to be done with it, that's a telling sign on where a person is mentally. And Chuck Fletcher is clearly in a lost spot. And when that's the case, you can't allow him to keep making these decisions.
Exactly. It just feels like the Flyers fan base as a whole was just blatantly lied to. When you go back to January when we were in the trash heap that was last season, him and Dave Scott promised us, okay, aggressive retool, blank check, everything like that, and they go out and sign Nick Delorier and promise that's what's going to turn the season around next year. He lied to. That's basically the entire situation of the entire thing.
Correct.
Like where it sounds like he's stating a rebuild now. That's what he sounds like.
No, you're right. And that's why I had the feelings that I did, which was I know a lot didn't buy into the aggressive retool, but I kept saying, if done right, I don't think it is a horrendous idea before the Joel Farabee injury. But like if Couturier, Hayes, Farabee, Atkinson, there are players here to a core that does relate to successful hockey. You just need to add a top-tier player. If you could bring in a Gaudreau to mix with those four players I just mentioned, that's an aggressive retool. Those are the details that push you into a different spot. And last year, I don't think they're as bad as last year, but I'm just looking at the aggressive retool. I don't despise it as much as others, but you got to do it right. They didn't do anything. They are running it back without Giroux, by the way, which is a huge loss. Even the idiots out there that claimed it wouldn't be. It is a big loss. You signed Delorier. This isn't an aggressive retool at all, and this isn't a rebuild either, though. This isn't rebuilding. So now you're doing nothing. That's worse. That's worse than it all. You're doing nothing. You're not rebuilding. This is just running it back again. That's not rebuilding in my eyes. Rebuilding would be Chicago. So what is this year?
He said stabilize. It's literally the same exact roster, adding Tony DeAngelo and Nick Delorier.
Nick Delorier,
like, do they not
blows? He blows.
Like, do they not realize, like, with Comcast, like, how big Johnny Gaudreau would have been to bring the fan base back? No one's going to go to games next year now. It's just the thing.
Guess what?
It's not going to happen.
I'll see you there, baby. Section 102. We'll be there. You know it. I'll wave to you. Hey, remember we said we wouldn't be here? We're here games 1, 3, 7, 15, 22. We're the idiots, Amadeo. We're the idiots. I'll point up. We'll both be both sections 202, 206. Hey, remember we said we wouldn't be here? We're here again. Timmy, the Flyers guy in the chat, says signing Ellis was a bad idea. Nah, it wasn't. That's a calculated risk I can support. Because Phil Myers isn't anything. He's going to get bought out, and he is just what he is. He's getting bounced around, healthy scratch, and Nolan Patrick stinks. So I'm okay with taking the risk for Ryan Ellis. Basically, that trade becomes every team lost. Every team lost. Giroux goes to Ottawa, by the way. Not surprising. Goes to his hometown. Hold on. The hometown team found a way to get Claude Giroux. If only there was a brain inside of the Philadelphia Flyers. Cole wants to know what the actual direction of this franchise is. Cole, I wish I knew, man. I wish I knew. That would be lovely. I wish I had the answers for you. I would be in the front office. I could be the GM and do a better job than this slop. I promise you that. You wouldn't see Nick Delorier. You wouldn't see Zach McEwen. I respect Zach McEwen for giving more effort and heart than some players last year, but that's not the bar. See, that's what happened. You get sucked into appreciating that because everybody else sucked. Other than Cam Atkinson gave it everything he had. Joe Farabee gave it everything he had. I think Kevin Hayes gave it everything he had when he got back and was healthy. And, there were players. G always gives everything, but just because of just the sadness of it all, Zach McEwen got way more praise than he deserved. I wouldn't have any of that nonsense. I had to Johnny Gaudreau, all right, Sean Couturier, Cam Atkinson. I'd have Joel Farabee, Kevin Hayes, right, and then who would I'd find another right winger to have up there. It's probably one that I'm just not coming to my mind at this very second. Did I mention TK? There you go. It's not the most groundbreaking top six. Well, I'll tell you what. Gaudreau, Couturier, Atkinson. Or you could do a whole BC line, even though you wouldn't move Kevin Hayes to number one, and Johnny Gaudreau's clearly playing first line left wing. But I'm just saying. Could you imagine a Gaudreau, Hayes, Atkinson, a little Boston College Eagles action? A Joel Farabee, Cootsy with a TK? I mean, come on. It's a lot better than what you got. Then, I was talking to someone yesterday rolling through this lineup, right? Is Morgan Frost your 3C? Oh, you got to be kidding me. I'd rather go Scott Lawton 3C. I'd rather go 3C Scott Lawton. And by the way, if Scott Lawton's your 3C, I'm not loving it. Rob says, hey, do you remember back on January 26th, they actually told us a blank check. We could have a blank check, and now the cap's in the way and zero assets management. You know what, Rob? You know what's crazy about this? Everyone knew that Johnny Gaudreau was going to become a free agent. Well, okay, let me backtrack a bit. We didn't know if he'd leave Calgary, but we knew when that contract needed to be re-upped. There's a lot that happens in a general manager chair. And I say this about Howie Roseman a ton. It's not just about this year. It's about next year. It's about 3 years ahead. You need that blueprint out there. You can't just pretend nothing else matters. When you're a baseball manager, manage in the moment, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. It's a 3-game set on the road. You have a bullpen game, game 3. You have to manage knowing 2 games ahead. If you're the Flyers front office and you didn't manage properly, knowing Gaudreau would be available or his contract needed to be re-upped without it being set in stone that he was returning to Calgary, how are you so unprepared for this moment? How often does it happen where someone is saying, please come get me, please? A dude who just put up 100 points. Normally, it's every team calling, saying, please come to me. Please take this deal. Please look at this contract. Normally, it's the other way around. They botched this big time. And yeah, when it gets to this level of botched, it's fireable. It's fireable, unfortunately. All right, everyone. Thank you guys so much for listening. Big change of feel for me. It's a line change. All right, we're no longer on the 4th line. We dumped and changed, and now we're going hot and heavy. And I'm feeling down. I'm normally the last one standing with this team in any sort of positive light. When you hit Broads where it hurts and you put that dagger in me and start turning to the right, for the Flyers, I'm the last one to drop. I dropped. So good luck, Chuck. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. New to the channel? Hit the subscribe button. SeatGeek promo code BROADS gets you $20 off of your purchase if you are a new user. So get yourself to a game today. $20 off. All those fees, free parking. Come on. And then lastly, Broads Media on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Make sure you follow over there. Thank you guys so much. I will catch you on the next one.